Okay, students, welcome back. Welcome to another live lesson here with Star Tutors. If you haven't been with us before, I am Chase. We will get started here in just a second. But if you are in the live part of this lesson, please give me a thumbs up in the chat. Or if you don't want to comment in the chat, you can just give me a thumbs up in the thumbs up below the video. If you're here, you're paying attention. And we will get started here in just a second. Before we do, though, please make sure, guys, that you have downloaded Star U. That is our free tutoring app. It's available in the App Store, on Google Play, and on a web version. I pinned that to the top. It's also in the video description below. So please check that out, guys. Make sure you download Star U. That includes 100 free lessons related to the SAT and 500 free practice problems. So please do that. Please make sure, guys, that you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, that, of course, is always a good thing for us. Please make sure that you subscribe. And finally, if you're interested in joining as a member, you can click the join button below this video. Make sure you subscribe because that's free, especially if you like what you see today. But if you click the join button and you become a silver member, which is $3 a month, you get access to a significant amount of premium content. Okay, so maybe 200 additional hours, 200 hours, that's a lot of video content related to the SAT and the ACT. So again, if you're interested in seeing even more of this stuff and learning more about these exams and future exams in math, please make sure that you check out that join, that silver button, the join button, the silver membership. That $3 a month will get you access to all that premium content. Okay, so guys, before we get going here, what I want to point out is, first of all, we've talked a lot about the writing and language, about the reading sections recently, but we haven't talked as much about the math sections of late. First and foremost, make sure that you guys know that if you want to check out, the playlist for all of these videos, these section videos, you can do that. The playlist is below. I've taken these sections in real time. The first time I had seen these, so I can walk you. What we want to do now is I'm going to turn around and we've already created reading videos and writing and language videos on the same October 2021 exam. So this is from October 2021. Okay, so it's as of the making of this video, it's the most recently released SAT, the most recent one that we have. October 2021. We've already created some tutorial videos, and we're circling back to show you guys what I'm thinking about in more depth than maybe what you see in those real-time videos. So hopefully these help. We are on the no calculator section here, which is section number 3. No calc section 3. Guys, in terms of, let's see. And again, once again, guys, as you guys get into the chat today, please give me a thumbs up just so I know that you're here and you're paying attention, either in the live chat if you want to participate and ask questions, or in the, just give me a thumbs up below the video so I know who's here and ready to go. And for anybody that's interested in things to do the week before the SAT, here's a great video. Let me post this. Give me 1 second. Where's this video? Again, I think this is a great one to be thinking about the week before the test. Here it is. 5 most important concepts to review the week before the SAT. Okay, so if you guys want to check out that video, again, I encourage you to do so. Guys, in terms of what you can do before this Saturday, we have so many playlists that I would highly encourage you guys. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. We're going to be doing videos all of this week, these live type lessons, so that you guys can check back in. Again, if you're watching the recorded video of this, please also check out those playlists. But if you subscribe to the channel, you'll always know when we're making new videos. And then if you go into our channel page, you'll see those playlists, and that will give you a good idea as to what you should be studying depending on the section. We've broken up those playlists into reading, into writing and language, into math, so they're all there in terms of what you need to be looking for. But again, guys, going back to this idea for this 3-pass strategy. So for those that have seen our videos in the past, particularly related to the SAT math section, we implemented an idea that has been developed over the last 4 or 5 years. So it started out with this kind of general concept about how to be a good test taker, and it has slowly evolved into what we call the 3-pass math method. The 3-pass math method. Okay? And one of the things that you'll hear me constantly say in these videos, and what makes, I think, our videos and our content and the way that we teach different from anybody else, is everything that we talk about is mathematical. It's not about how I feel. It's not about how, there's no emotion involved with the way that we're trying to teach these things. And the reason that that can be so helpful is because it keeps you on task. It makes you think about, what am I doing? Okay, you think about, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay, which is, right, to be as direct as possible, what is the next question? What am I doing? Not, right, not how am I doing? That is what we want to try to avoid. How am I doing, right? What's my score? This is all emotion. And I've worked at so many different companies, right? How am I doing is what so many people teach. That does not help you, and it certainly doesn't help you in a short amount of time, like you probably have if you're taking the SAT very soon. What am I doing, right? That's the focus of this concept. What's the next question in front of me? And if I know how to do it, I should probably answer it, and I want to answer it with 100% accuracy. And if I don't know how to answer it, let me move on. And so this 3-pass strategy involves, and I'm going to demonstrate it for you guys, but it's pass 1, right, pass 2, and pass 3. And the idea is actually generated from a mathematical concept that has then been used in computer science called the sorting algorithm. So again, going back to this idea, guys, we have developed these strategies. These are ours. These are our original strategies, algorithm. But they are developed by ideas that are mathematical, that are objective, right? When you talk about the reading test, if you've seen any of our reading videos, we're talking about mathematical statistics, right? And while it feels uncomfortable to a lot of students to do it this way, I guarantee this is not emotion. This is not me saying I guarantee your score will be better because I'm trying to get you to pay money. This is all free. So, right, everything we're talking about right now is free. There's no reason for us to say anything else, like, oh, you got to do 50 hours of work. That's not true. If you can figure out the psychology of this exam, you will find that the content within the exam is not particularly difficult. Now, maybe you're better at one section than another, but it's about how you take the exam. So when you think about the sorting algorithm, and again, this is a mathematical algorithm that has been used. It's a permutation, right? And so it really is a permutation idea. And it's been used, it's consistently used in computing and specifically very, very early computing. And what this basically says is let's use this example as if we have a certain number of boxes, right? So we have boxes and they're all stacked up, and this box looks like this, right? And the boxes are like this, and then this one might be a little bit taller than both of them, right? We have 3 boxes stacked up here. And as it goes right now, this says 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. The constraints of this sorting algorithm idea is that you don't have anybody over your shoulder. This is true of the SAT math section. Nobody is over your shoulder telling you that you can't skip a problem or that you have to do one in a certain order. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? Nobody is going to be there on test day being like, wait a second, why did you skip that question? You don't know how to do that? That's so easy for me. Well, what might be easy for that person that's criticizing you might be difficult for you, but on the very same token, the next question or the next passage or whatever it might be very easy for you and hard for somebody else. So never criticize yourself during the test. It is extremely important to stay as positive as possible. And this allows you to always do that. So, right, this is how most students take the test. One of the biggest misconceptions on the math section is that the whole test is in order of difficulty. That is categorically not true. It is true that questions generally, broadly, right, on the no calc section as an example, on the multiple choice there are 15 questions. It is true that questions 1 through 5 are easier than questions 11 through 15. But that doesn't mean that just one question, maybe number 12, right, maybe number 12 is actually easier, right, than question number 3 for you, for whatever reason. That happens to me all the time. For whatever reason, I'm looking at a question, and number 12, I just did that in school, I know it right away. But question number 3 is one that I haven't studied in forever, so 3 is actually more difficult than 12. So this idea that each question is getting harder is not true. As a group, that's true, but not each individual question. So what we need to think about then is how do we make these boxes not appear so that we have to jump inconsistently, right? If I'm on the ground here, and I'm directed to jump on the boxes, right? The theoretical, the figurative boxes. Does everybody see how much more difficult those jumps are? versus what happens if I had the ability, and you do, and this is what the sorting algorithm in computer science is. I'm going to go through the test, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to figure out which ones are the shortest boxes, which ones are the easiest questions, and I'm going to do those first. And I'm going to line these questions up so that I only look at the easiest questions first, whatever those might be for you. Again, you want to keep in mind, you want to keep perspective on this, that the earlier questions generally are going to be easier. So you don't want to over or underestimate certain question groupings. But the idea is that you are no longer going to take this in a method that where every question is worth the same value. Answering number 3 just because it's number 3 and struggling with number 12, right, or vice versa, or not having enough time for number 12 doesn't make any sense if both of those questions are worth the same value. And that's true for every question on the SAT math section. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? So the idea of this pass method, right, is instead of going through this and answering questions out of order in terms of difficulty, we're going to stack these boxes up so that it makes these jumps extremely easy. And you can think about that in a number of different ways. You can think about that from a momentum standpoint, right? If you're only answering easy questions, your momentum stays high. You never run into that situation where you start to freak out because one question is difficult or maybe 2 questions in a row are difficult. You never have that experience. If there are 2 questions in a row that are difficult, you just move on from those. You do those at the very end of the test, and if you have to guess on those, who cares? You got 18 other questions right, and you get 750. You're on pace for a 750 on the math section. Does this make sense, guys, as a concept? And again, this is, for anybody that doesn't do this method, I hate to say it, but for anybody that doesn't use this method, it might not be the easiest thing in the world right away, because you do have to get used to the idea of skipping questions. Psychologically, that's more difficult than I might be making it sound right now. But mathematically speaking, if you are not using this method, right, this is a computer science idea. If you are not using this method, you are at a disadvantage from an efficiency standpoint from everybody else that does use this method. That's just a fact. That is not me emotionally saying that because I think our methods are better. That is objective. That is a mathematical certainty that for anybody that's using this and has practiced this, they are going to be more efficient than anybody that doesn't use this method. Again, that's just mathematical. You try to argue that all day long, and fortunately the math would just back up that statement rather than me having to defend it on any type of an emotional statement. Like, oh, I think my method is better because it's me and it's not, right? That doesn't make any sense. And that's what we try to shoot for in all of these videos, is not to put you guys in a situation where it's just me guessing that that's a good idea. This is, right, if I'm all of a sudden jumping on these boxes now, right, and I'm jumping each step up, and maybe I don't, maybe unfortunately my guy here, he doesn't make it to the final box, so he has to guess on those, and he falls a little bit short of this final box. Well, if the breakdown of these questions in past 1, 2, and 3, if the breakdown of these questions is 10, right, 8, and then unfortunately I have to guess on 2 of these, right, that's not that big of a deal. Because now all of a sudden I'm 18 out of 20 and I'm on pace, like I said, for a 750, around a 750 on the math section. And better yet, when the test has no penalty for guessing, if those 2 questions happen to be multiple choice questions, we of course can fill in a bubble letter, and there's a pretty good statistical advantage to getting at least one of those 2 questions right. Now you're at 19 out of 20. Okay, does that make sense? So yeah, Utopian, for those that are watching this, I highly recommend trying to practice this week. This is something that can be implemented. I wouldn't implement it if it's just the first time you're seeing this video and you have the SAT tomorrow. But if you have even a couple days to work on this, and I'm gonna demonstrate this for you guys in just a second. If you have even a couple days to work on this and practice this just on a math no calculator section, you will be amazed at how high your math score can get. And maybe even more importantly, how comfortable you can feel on the math section. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? Because think about it. This works for everybody in the world. Maybe your breakdown is not to get a 750. Maybe you're trying instead, right? This method works at every level of the test. Maybe your breakdown is trying to get to a 600. Okay, so maybe your boxes then, right, wouldn't be the 10, 8 that I just drew up for pass 1, pass 2. Right? Maybe that's not the breakdown. Maybe your breakdown, if you're trying to get to a 600, is something like, I don't know, 7 and then 7 and then 5, right? And then you have to guess on the remaining 8 questions. But if you're 12 for 12 and you have 8 questions to guess on, you're going to end up getting 14 to 15 out of 20 questions right. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? Thumbs up in the chat if you're participating in the chat, or if you're watching this as a recording or you just don't want to participate in the chat, give me a thumbs up below the video. That if this is trying to get to a 600, 12 out of 12 with 8 questions where you get a guess on the remaining questions is going to be on pace for a 600 score, if not higher. So again, the biggest misconception to this entire exam and to anything that you guys are going to hear from anybody else, because I try to break this down mathematically, it's why we started Star Tutors, because I couldn't fathom what I was having to teach to students in other companies because it just didn't make sense mathematically to me. And so when I was saying it to students, I was like, man, this is really going to have to, we're going to have to get lucky, and I don't want you guys to have to get lucky. I want you guys to know going into the test, hey, I'm going to answer 12 out of 12 today. I know I can do that. I'm going to do this pass. And if I have to guess on 8 questions, boom, I hit my goal and I'm on pace for a 600. Let's go on to the math with the calculator section. Let's figure this out. How do I get this done? Right? So we're jumping from one box to the next. That's our goal. All right, so let me demonstrate what I mean by that. What the word in play here, the word that I use with all of my students that I want you guys to consistently think about is intentional. Can everybody write that down if you haven't already? The word intentional, okay? If you are intentional, you cannot make a mistake if you answer it correctly or if you skip it. There is no wrong answer if you are intentional about your decision within 20 seconds of the question. Okay, you have 20 seconds to determine not to answer the question, but you have 20 seconds, no more than 20 seconds on the first pass at least, right? Pass 1, where you're going to go all the way through the test, 1 through 20, and you're going to sort these questions, right, so that your boxes, the boxes that you're going to jump on, look like this and not this, right? Look like this and not this. Because those boxes, your first pass, you want to knock out all of these easy box jump 1 questions before you ever look at a difficult question. You have 20 seconds to make that determination. And if you are intentional about that 20 seconds, you're intentional in the sense that, like, I have intention of making this decision, then you can't make a bad decision. Now, that does not mean you have to answer every question in 20 seconds. It means that in 20 seconds, you have to determine if it's a question that's worthy of answering at that moment in time, or if it's a question that you should just move on from. Yeah, you told me it will work on other sections. It's most effective on the math section, but the idea, the sorting algorithm, is something that always works if every question is the same value, right? You get 1 equals 1. Whether it's the single hardest question or the single easiest question on these exams, every section, every question is worth the same value. But we know that not to be the case in terms of how difficult those questions are. So while the value is 1 equals 1, that's not really what's happening. In reality, it's probably 1, right, is better than 3, right? 3 being the highest level question on any SAT section. So it works best on math because just because of the way that the math is formatted and just math questions in general. But if you've watched our SAT reading videos, I highly encourage you, and if you haven't seen the SAT reading playlist, I highly encourage you to check this out. Because the SAT reading playlist will show you that you're not doing it really for every question on SAT reading. You're really trying to organize your passage order so that it's most advantageous for your passages. Which passages do I typically do the best on, or do you typically do the best on? So for anybody that is interested in this, SAT reading playlist, you guys can see that here. Check that out. And that again talks more about the passages. So let's try to figure out what would qualify as a pass 1 question. Right? And again, this is the first time we go through this test for the October 2021 exam. If you guys want to follow along, you can click on the video link below in the video description. But pass 1, I qualify as the absolute easiest. I say no word problems, but that you can be pretty flexible with that. You don't have to absolutely qualify that. No word problems. Right, 100% accuracy, 100% accuracy, and questions that are generally not going to be not too time consuming. I don't want you guys to get caught up with the idea that it can't take you a second. If you know how to do the problem, that should qualify as a pass 1 question. So this right over here, the not too time consuming, that's kind of a fringe idea. It's more about, can everybody give me a thumbs up? It's more about the questions that you 100% know how to answer. even if it takes you 2 minutes to answer it, if you know, systems of equations as an example are typically longer questions. But if you know how to do a systems of equations problem, it's always the same steps. So, then it's just about not making a simple math mistake. If you take 2 minutes on that question, but you get it right, hey, you knew you were going to get it right, so that's actually a good sign and could technically qualify as one of these past one questions. But let me try to give you guys some examples of these, because I think sometimes when we go through those real-time videos, I don't have a time to explain everything. But does everybody see, can everybody give me a thumbs up if you understand, and this is question number 1, so in the early questions, we're expecting them to be more past one questions. But can everybody see how this is an absolute past one question? It's one of the easiest questions on the test, right? We see 3k plus 2k is equal to 5. Right? And guys, let me even look, just to show you what this past one, how I want you to practice. I've already done this test, and when I did it in real time, that was the first time I had seen it. But generally, this idea still works. So let me just, I'm going to put 25 minutes on the clock, so you guys can see this in real time, what I'm talking about. And then you can use that same idea to practice. So you'll see 25 minutes on the clock, and I'm going to stop my timer after I get through all of these past one questions. And this is how I would practice, and I would time yourself, see where you are after past 1, stop the timer, write it down. Okay, then start past 2, get back to the other questions, see where you are, write it down. And we'll talk about that in a second, but this is so easy, right? And just don't make a simple mistake. 5k is equal to 5, divide by 5, so k, right, is just equal to 1. Guys, that is extremely, extremely straightforward. The answer is just B. Now, again, we're expecting that a little bit. If you know number 2, anytime you have graphs in the answer choices, don't forget that we can always just plug in numbers, right? So I think this is also a past one question. I'm going to use, let's say, when x is equal to 1, what is y equal to? Well, if I plug in 1 for x, y is equal to 3. So in this graph, we need to have a point, right, that shows up as 1, 3, because I just did that. You can plug in points. That would be an XY column. So let's see, 1 here up to 3. So this first graph A works for that one. The second one does not have a point on 1, 3, so that doesn't work. Third one doesn't. I can already see the fourth one doesn't. Boom. I plug in one answer choice. 1 I plugged in as x equals 1. So if x equals 1, what is y? Y is 3, right? When we plug it into the equation, there's only one graph that has 1, 3 as one of the points on the graph, so I know that has to be the answer answer to number 2. Excuse me. Now let me give you guys an example. Does everybody see how much more complicated, without really even reading it? Does everybody? I don't know if it's going to be difficult, but does everybody see how this would then qualify? Number 3 would qualify as a past 2 question. Thumbs up, guys, if you see that. That already there are so many more components, right? We already have x and f of x. We have so much more writing. Thumbs up, guys, if you see why question number 3 would qualify as a past 2 question and be way more difficult than those first 2. Versus question number 4, right? We're given an equation, a typical quadratic with x squared. That one looks very straightforward. And if we know notation, right, f of 2 is equal to 12. So that just means that when x is equal to 2, y is equal to 12, right? That's just the notation for that graph. And all we have to do if we're trying to find the value of c is we just have to plug that in and solve for c. So we get 12 is equal to 3 times 2 squared plus 4 times 2, minus c, right? And this is a good example of a problem that might take me a little bit longer than those first 2, but at the same time, still not going to be, right, if I can still do this one out. So I get 4 times 3 is 12, plus 4 times 2 is 8, so I get 8 minus c. 12 is equal to 20 minus c, right? I'm going to subtract 20 on both sides, so I get negative 8 is equal to negative c. So if I'm looking for the value of c, c must just equal 8. And again, may have taken me a little bit longer than those first 2, but certainly wasn't difficult once I got going. Number 5, I'm going to say that's a past 2 question. I'm not going to do it for right now because that one looks a lot longer, right, than 3 of the first 5 that I think I answered correctly. Number 6, this is a great example. 6 is going to be so much easier, right, if we know how to do 6. And again, this comes back, you do have to get some concept review going. This isn't just like, you're going to know 20 questions off the bat. But does everybody see again how 6 is a past 1 question? There's not a lot of information to digest here, not a lot to understand. And if you know that 6 divided by x over 18 can also be written as 6 divided by x, right? 6 over x divided by 18 over 1. For those that remember their early arithmetic classes, we're going to say 6 divided by x. We're going to flip the second number and we're going to multiply instead. 1 over 18. So now we get 6 over 18x is equal to 1 over 3x. And that would be answer choice B. Right? So that one's very, very straightforward if we know how to do it. For right now, I'm going to answer number 7, but I want to be very clear on number 7. I love geometry. So your practice prior to coming to this test is very important to also recognize the types of questions that you like to answer. I love geometry. I've always loved geometry. So this is a question, even though it looks a little bit longer for me, right? This is a question that I want to answer. If you hate geometry, don't do this question in past 1. For me, because I like it, I'm going to say that this is a past 1 question for me, but it could be qualified as past 2. Okay? Quadratic formula. I've said this in other videos for those that have followed along with our other videos. Quadratic formula, I absolutely cannot stand. I don't like it. So that would be a good example of a question, even if it is easy for some of you, that I would skip. In this one, it says the center of the circle, AB is tangent to circle at A. Okay, so that means that this right here is a 90-degree angle. That's the definition of a tangent line to a radius. Which of the following is true about the measure of BAC? It's 90 degrees, right there. That's a geometric rule. That number 7 is, if you know that rule, is a guaranteed correct answer. I guarantee number 7 is C if you know that rule, unless I read it wrong. BAC, nope, I think that's right. Okay, again, very straightforward if you know the rules for tangent lines. The graph of the function f is shown below. Again, anytime we get a graph, it's generally not too difficult. This is saying f of x is equal to 0, which is essentially saying x is equal to what if y is equal to 0, which means just, right, what's the x-intercept? Okay? So if I know that when f of x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0, looks like it's equal to 3. Does that all make sense? So that should be very straightforward as well. D. Yeah, Utopian. Well, that's great. If you feel great, scores from the 20s to the 40s. Guys, the reason that I'm doing this for free, and the reason I want everybody to see it, is because if you guys work hard, this should not be something. Can everybody give me a thumbs up to this? This should not be something that costs money. Education should not be something that costs money if you're willing to work hard. There are so many students. You can see it. We have a lot of views and a lot of subscribers to this channel, but there's 2 million students every year that take the SAT. We don't have anywhere close to the number that we could. The reason that this is free is because if you work hard and you watch these videos and you follow along, these things should be rewarded. And that's why we make this stuff, right? Again, that's why I encourage you guys, if you can, help us spread the word about more subscribers. That would be great. Because the more subscribers we have, the more videos like this we can make. And that's all free for all of you guys to have that. For right now, guys, I generally enjoy, so hopefully that'll make sense, guys. Give me a thumbs up if that's cool. Right now, I'm going to skip number 9. I like growth and decay functions, but it's not really the point of this video. I don't think that this is a typical past 1 question, so I'm going to label this as past 2. A good example of this could be a past 3, and 3 is when we use our guessing letter. The reason this could be past 3 is because if you don't know anything about growth and decay functions, then you should not try to do question number 9. You're just going to waste time and you're going to waste energy and waste momentum. Like I said, I love geometry problems. Anytime I get a geometric figure, I'm 99% sure that I can answer it quickly. It says, what is the volume of a triangular prism? I know that the volume of any prism is just equal to the area of the shape. In this case, it's a triangle, times the height or the length, right? In this case, you use the length of 10. I also know that this is a right triangle, so the 2 sides are the base and the height. That's a good thing to know. The SAT loves that. But if you guys see this, right, and I change this up, this is now 6 is equal to the base, right? And this 6 is equal to the height. So watch out for that. So I know this is 1/2 6 times 6, right? That's the area of a triangle. 1/2 base times height times 10, which is the length. 1/2 6 times 6 36 times 1/2 is 18 times 10 is 180, and so we get answer choice C. I'm going to skip number 11. Number 12 could maybe be easy, but I'm going to skip it. I don't think it's going to be as easy maybe as number 10. Whereas number 13 looks extremely straightforward. There's not a lot of writing. I'm always a big believer that you should not be doing a lot of questions that have a ton of writing. There's so many opportunities to make a simple mistake. Can everybody give me 2 thumbs up in the chat or a thumbs up below the video if you guys get that? That if you're looking at questions with a lot of writing, it's not to say that you can't do those questions. It's just that the chances of making a simple mistake on a time test are extremely high if we try to answer those questions. At least initially, let's warm up, get all the easy questions out of the way, know how much time we have left for past 2 before we start worrying about those word questions. All right, so number 13 says line L in the xy plane, which of the following is the equation? Well, first and foremost, guys, we're given points. Don't forget that on any line, you're always given points. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, right? So I can just plug that in, and up here we have 0, 2. I can plug both of those points in to see which answer choices work, right? 5, 0. If x is equal to 5, 5 minus 0 is not 10, right? I'm just plugging in x is equal to 5. And if I get 2 answer choices here that both work with this point, then I'm just going to go plug in this point and see which of those 2 works. Here, when I plugged in 5 and 0, that does not equal 10. 5 plus 0 is also not 10. 10 minus 0 does work, so C works. 10 plus 0 works. So that's a good example, right? I plugged in 5, 0, and both of the last 2 answer choices work. So now I'm going to plug in 0, 2 and see which one gives me the right answer. 2, yeah, so it's got to be plus, right? It's got to be D, because I plug in 2, I get 0 plus 5 times positive 2 is equal to 10. In this example for C, I would have gotten negative 10. So number 13 should be D. Another good example of a question that might take us a second to answer, but if we know we can get it right, that should still be a pass 1 question. If we know we can understand it, we can get it right quickly, that should be a pass 1 question. Okay? Let's see. Systems of equations. Oh, no, this is a great one. Whenever you guys see the term no solution, you need to know this. No solution, right? This should be a pass 1 question equals parallel lines. If you see that word, it means that you have parallel lines, which means slopes are equal. Slopes are equal with the equations. Y-intercepts are not equal. The constant are not equal. That's a word that if you see no solution, this question actually becomes very straightforward. So these values are not going to equal. These values are going to equal, right? You have to make sure that they do. And what we can do with this question always, and the reason that I qualify this as a pass 1, I wouldn't have done a systems of equation question at pass 1 if I hadn't seen this word no solutions. Because what this means is all I have to do is line up these two, right? Negative 6 and 3y. So if I have 3y here plus 3y, what value gives me negative 6y? Well, we can see pretty easily that this is just times negative 2. So that would mean that these 2 values also have to have that same negative 2 coefficient, right? So now I have nx, right, times negative 2. What value times negative 2 gives me positive 12x? Well, that would just be negative 6x, right, times negative 2 is equal to positive 12x. So I know the value of n has to be equal to negative 6. Again, that's a debatable pass 1 question. It depends on how well you know that no solution idea. This right here is not a debatable pass 1 question. This is a question we all need to make sure that we get right. 15 is extremely easy if you've done your work. Okay, all it's asking is which of these values is equivalent. Well, first and foremost, if we see 16, we can break this up, right, to say 16 times, the square root of 16 times the square root of a to the 16th power. Those are equal. So right away, we know that the square root of 16 is 4, and thus we can eliminate c and d immediately. That's a huge advantage. If you don't know what to do with this part of the value, at least you're guessing 50-50. That's mathematical certainties, guys. If you look at these videos that we have produced, every single one of the videos talks about mathematical certainties. Why not start with the easy part of the question, right, which is getting this down to 4, rather than worrying about what this a to the 16th? Always start with the easier part. Now, what we need to remember, what we need to study is to say that a to the 16th square rooted is the same as a to the 16th to the 1/2 power. And when we have powers raised to powers, we know it's 16 times 1/2. Thus, the answer has to be B for number 15. Okay? What I also want you guys to remember is that this doesn't have to be the same for all of you. Does everybody see that if you answer fewer questions, you're going to have more time? If you answer more questions, you're going to have less time, but it varies. Pass 1 and Pass 2 vary for every student. 2 thumbs up if that makes sense. And the beauty of this is now we have, what, over 11 minutes left, and we've gotten back to the easy questions. Remember that 16 through 20, right? 16 through 20 are all Pass 1 questions. These are all, free response questions, not all Pass 1. But 16 through 18 can very often be easier questions than 11 through 15. The graph and the xy plane is line. Guys, I mean, think about how easy that question is. This is y equals mx plus b. And I can't tell you how often we see students not even get to these free response questions because they're so worried about the first 15. Think about the disadvantage. 16 is so much easier than question number 12. So much easier. What is the slope of the line? It's 3/5. Right? And that's something that I think everybody remembers and knows, but think about having to guess or not get to that question solely because you were trying to do these questions in order. If you ever need a reason for using this pass method, look no further than this test and this test form, October 2021. Look no further than question number 16, which is one of the easiest questions I've ever seen on the SAT on any section ever made. This would be one of the most straightforward questions. And we see student score reports all the time where students just never even see number 16 because they just run out of time. That is crazy when every question is worth the same value, right, point-wise, but so different in terms of how easy these questions are. For right now, on number 17, I'm going to skip this just because it's systems of equations and I want to keep moving. I'm going to skip 18 in the right triangle. Oh no, it's 18 I know really well. If you have sine x is equal to cosine 20, okay, the sine, whenever you have sine and cosine equal, x right here just equals 90 minus, so right here, the sine of 70 degrees is equal to the cosine of 20. If you ever need proof of that, just go look at your unit circle. The sine of 60 degrees, right, in the unit circle is equal to the cosine of 30 degrees. All you have to do when you see sine and cosine like this is very easy trig identity, is just that those two values have to equal 90 degrees if you have sine equal cosine. Then the degree measures just have to be the opposite of they have to be complementary angles, sorry. Some of the solutions, this one should be really straightforward. X minus 2 is equal to 3. We have two values always when we have an absolute value question. We have x minus 2, right? Positive x minus 2 is equal to 3. And we have negative x minus 2 is equal to 3. Okay, now we have x minus 2 equals 3, so x is equal to 5. We're looking for the sum, so there must be another answer. Negative x plus 2 equals 3. Minus 2 on both sides, negative x is equal to 1. So x is equal to negative 1. So then the sum of x equals 5 and x equals negative 1 is just 4. Okay, so with that in mind, guys, I'm going to stop the timer right there. That's it for me. I don't even want it, but 20 might be easy, but again, we can always come back to those questions. The point that I want to show you is that this is a way to practice, and you can practice this very quickly. Let's count up how many questions I answered there, and hopefully I answered them correctly. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, great, guys. Think about how much, when you do this method and you practice it, right, think about how much further condensed this test is. Right now, assuming that I got all the questions right, let's hope, that I would be 13 out of 13, okay, for pass 1. And that's what I would have you guys write down. My first box jump, right, in my example, my first box jump, hopefully I'm 13 out of 13. Right? I know, again, the timing would probably be a little different if I wasn't talking all the way through it, but it is what it is. Does that make sense, guys? So that's how I would write it down. On pass 1, I'm 13 out of 13 correct, hopefully, right? I am now, or let's say 13 out of 20, sorry, 13 out of 20. 13 out of 20 correct. And if in a perfect world, then I would be 7 out of 20 skipped, and that would be my 20. And I didn't have any, I would hope that I had no incorrect answers. And this is how I would be practicing. And I would write down that my banked time for this first box jump, banked time, is equal to 8 minutes and 5 seconds, which is what's on the clock. And think about how further condensed that is. If I'm 13 for 13, I'm already on pace for like a 650 score. And I still have 8 minutes and 5 seconds left for 7 additional questions. Now, again, is it easier in your mind when you're taking a timed, stressful test? Is it easier in your mind to reconcile 20 questions in 25 minutes or 7 questions in 8 minutes and 5 seconds? It's so much easier to figure out where you need to place your time when it's so much further condensed. And on top of that, while breaking this down to make it condensed like that so you don't have to worry, you know where you are within the test, in the process of doing that, you've also answered 13 questions correctly. Even if you were to stop right now and guess the rest of the questions, you'd probably get around a 650, right? 620, somewhere in there. Now I have 7 questions left for pass number 2. I have 8:05 on the clock. And if my goal score is to get a 750 on the exam or to be on pace for a 750 going into the calculator section, am I thinking about 7 questions? Am I thinking about 7 questions? No, I'm thinking about 5 questions. To get a 750, to be on pace for that, I have to think 18 out of 20. And if I skip 2, right, especially if they're multiple choice, I can guess one of those correctly. Right? That's the idea. On most SAT math sections, if you get 18 out of 20 and then 35 out of 38 on the calculator section, you'll be on pace for a 750. So that's where I have to set my sights. And that means that I am not thinking about 7 questions. Where are of the 7 remaining questions for pass number 2, right? Where are the 5 easiest that I can answer in 8 minutes and 5 seconds and then guess on the final 2 if I need to? That's how you become a great test taker. That is a mathematical certainty. And guess what? If the test happens to be really easy on that given test day, do I want you to stop early and just take a nap if you get those 5 questions done? Absolutely not. Try for 7 out of 7 if you have time, but don't make that decision until you've gotten those next 5 done. And if at worst comes to worst, you have to guess on those next 5. You have to guess on those final 2. Who cares? You're on pace for a 750. And if you have a great test day and you just feel great about the test, you get 20 out of 20. But it's amazing. We have a lot of students that comment on these videos that always ask, how are you staying so calm? Where I feel like I'm a madman rushing through. We had somebody comment that today. It's because of practice. It's because of breaking this down in a way that when you're practicing, I want to point out that I haven't spent any more time on this test than what is actually given to me. In terms of actually looking at the questions, can everybody give me a thumbs up that I haven't spent any additional time? So right now, yes, I'm starting and stopping, and yes, that helps me with momentum, and you know, I get a little bit of a break right now. But in terms of just purely answering these questions, I have written down my time exactly where I was, and I've only looked at this test for the amount of time that I have. And that's why this becomes such a great drill. The reason I'm able to stay so calm on all of these sections when you watch our other videos is because when you break it down and you slow it down, it's like playing an instrument. If you play the piano, right, or if you play the guitar, you don't just start by playing Mozart. Even Mozart didn't do that, right? I mean, at some point he got to the point where he could just play anything. But for his early life, he had to work, and you slowly build up until you understand it so well that there's no reason to be stressed about anything. You know what's to come. You know where you are on the test. You know the format of the test, that you kind of know exactly where you are at any given time. And that allows you to speed up, to skip a question if you need to do whatever. But it even breaks down to this idea, guys, that if you're looking at the reading section, everybody always gets so worried about writing and language. Guys, if you are behind by 1 minute, and this is true of any section, right? You're behind 1 minute in terms of pacing. If you skip one question, just one question, you are no longer behind by 1 minute. Does that make sense? I mean, think about that as a formatting. When most students look at the clock and they feel like they're behind, the immediate reaction is, oh no, I gotta speed up. You're one question behind. Just skip the next. If you're on the writing and language section and you see a question that's like the main idea of the passage, and you know you're 1 minute behind it, just skip the next one that says the main idea of the passage. and get to the next grammar questions and you've already caught up on time with just one question rather than freaking out about where am I in the test. The same thing goes here. If you know that, hey, I'm pretty consistent because I've practiced this, I'm pretty consistent getting 13 questions right on pass number 1 in about 8 minutes, right, with about 8 minutes to go, then there's no reason to stress on the real thing. And that's why when we make these videos, it's so easy to know where you are in the test or to speak out loud or to keep track of so many different variables. I'm keeping track of those because I've practiced, not because I was born with some innate ability. I've done this for long enough, I've thought about it for long enough that I didn't do this in high school. I was a great test taker in high school, but not like I am now because I didn't have as much practice. And now it's very easy to just know what's coming because every test is the same. That's the idea of a standardized test. They're always testing you on the same concepts. The scale is always based on the national average, not based on any individual question. And that knowledge, that ability to stay calm, to stay focused, to know, hey, I'm 1 minute behind, so I'm just going to skip the next long question and now I'm caught up with my time. That's unbelievable, right? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? That if on writing and language or on the math test, right, if you are 1 minute behind your current pace, that does not mean that you need to speed up on every question with the possibility of making simple mistakes, right? Instead, it means you need to skip the next long question, skip one time-consuming word problem, and if you have to guess on that at the end, who cares? You've skipped it, so you made up the time so that you didn't have to rush and make simple mistakes on questions you did know how to answer or that weren't going to take very long. And that's the idea of being a great test taker, right? That is the primary idea of being a great test taker. And if you can do that, right? If you can do that, you'll be amazed. And it goes to the reading section. Utopian talking about 20s to 40s on the reading section. When you sit there and you just read the passage and you don't think of like all the different strategies that could go on, and you just take it because it's called the reading section, you actually read the passage. It's amazing how easy it is to then answer the questions because that's the simplest thing you can do. You've always done that. You're just reading a passage that's at your own grade level right now. If you're taking an AP class or an advanced honors class, that's going to be higher grade level than anything you see on this exam. And you're just reading a normal passage and you're answering questions about that. And all of you guys have done that forever, for all of your school life. So why would there be any reason to be, worried about doing that process? There wouldn't be. And that's the key, is to practice in a way that allows you to see where you are in the test, to understand, to think about where you are. And if you ever have any questions, you can always watch our real-time videos where I do these videos in real time to show you where you could potentially get to, right, if you keep putting in that practice. And that's the goal here, guys. That's the ultimate idea with everything that we do in these videos, is to try to show you a way that is mathematical certainties. It's not to say that it's going to be easy today or easy to implement by next week. It can be implemented quickly. It's not to say that it's going to be easy, but it can be done with hard work over the course of the next 4 or 5 days before you take your next test, if that happens to be you. If you have more time than just this week, you can take 2 months, and then it's very easy to implement. You just have to practice using this method. And again, I just showed you the drill that I would do. After you're done with the first pass, then you go back to the remaining 7 questions, right? We would do that, and we would see which of those questions out of the 7, which 5 questions are the easiest to answer. If we can answer 5 of those and our time is about to run out, then we just guess on the final 2. If we answer 5 of those and we feel like we're really accurate on those 5, then maybe we move on. If we have another minute and a half left, let's try to find the 6th question. If we have 3 minutes left, let's try to find the 6th and the 7th question. And if worst comes to worst and you don't know how to answer it, just take a guess on the final question, but at least you know you got 19 out of 19 right, and you guessed on the one question that you already were going to struggle with without costing you any of the questions that you knew you could answer. You ended up guessing on one that you probably would have guessed on anyway. Okay? That is the key to being a great test taker. If you implement this 3-pass strategy, this is what is fundamentally based on computer science. It's a mathematical algorithm that is heavily used with permutations. It's a permutations thought concept that is heavily used within computer science. And especially on short tests like this, the sorting algorithm works extremely well. And that's what we try to do to show you guys with the reading section as well. Those 5 passages can be rearranged. Same with the ACT reading section. Those 4 passages on the ACT can be arranged to best suit you so that your you're jumping on boxes that is one after another, rather than having to jump from one small one to a tall one to a low one back to a tall one, right? That throws you completely off, and that's where, for anybody that's ever felt stress or anxiety on these exams, that's where that stress and anxiety often comes from, is trying to do too many things at once rather than just focusing on the questions that you know how to answer. And that's what the 3-pass method comes down to. All right, guys, so can everybody give me 2 thumbs up if that makes sense? I want to stop the video here. If you have any questions, you can always comment below these videos, and one of our teachers or tutors, myself included, will try to answer those questions. We will have another SAT review, so if you haven't seen that yet, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel first and foremost, and turn on all notifications so that you know when our next videos are coming out. But we have a full comprehensive SAT review coming this Wednesday. So if you have further questions that are more general or about a different section of the test, you can always check in there. It said SAT review live this Wednesday, and with all of our videos, the recordings will be posted and available immediately after. So again, you guys can click on that link that I just posted in the chat, set a reminder for yourself so that you guys know when that video is going to be posted, or when that live lesson is going to happen. And again, all of these videos will be posted as a recording as soon as we're done. And you can ask any general questions. We'll be going through all 4 sections of the test during that review, and we hope that all of you can make it. And if you can't make it, again, the video will be posted after, and you can always comment in the comment section below. So please, guys, again, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in joining the Silver membership for $3 a month to access hundreds of additional hours of content taught by me, you can click the join button. It's $3. I think it's well worth it. If you're buying a book, don't buy the book. I guarantee that $3 a month for the Silver membership is better than buying a book, guaranteed. I guarantee you'll get more out of it. If you don't have the means to buy the $3, I completely understand. We still have so much free content available as well. But if you do become a Silver member, it certainly helps us continue to make more of these videos. So you're not only helping yourself, I think, with that 100 hours of free content, but you're helping other students, which will allow us to make more free videos for everybody. So again, if you have the means to join the Silver membership, if you're thinking about purchasing a book, please don't do that. Make sure that you at least join the Silver membership first before. I think it's well worth it. Otherwise, subscribe for free, if nothing else, and help us spread the word, guys. And download Star U. Sorry, last product plug there. All right, guys. In any case, we'll see you guys for the live review, and we'll see you hopefully in the comment section with any future questions. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Continue to prepare hard. Keep working hard. You guys are doing great. And we will see you for the next review, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much. Have a great week, guys.